Welcome to Love You Bro Podcast. I am your host, Jude Davilla, and as I do it up every week, I do it with my baby brother, Jamie.
What it do?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good, man. Good.
Man, we got a special guest on our podcast tonight.
Absolutely.
We want to welcome in the legendary coach from Johnson County Community College. There's so many other things and stuff that we can go along with that, coach, because I know you're part of so many other baseball organizations and groups and stuff, but a legendary coach at Johnson County Community College that I had the privilege to play a couple years for. So we want to welcome Coach Kent Shelly to our show tonight.
It's great to be here, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to the show, Skip.
And am I still paying you to say good things about me?
Hey, listen, Coach, we're gonna get into a lot of stuff tonight, and we're gonna go through a little bit of segment about when I played there in 1991. I'll tell you what, bro, I wasn't easy. As you know, I wasn't an easy guy.
Nope.
I wasn't an easy guy to coach and be around. But listen, playing for guys like Coach Shelly, playing for guys like Coach Severino, playing for guys like Rusty Newman, guys that know the game, you take so much of that in your life later on that you look back on and go, wow, you know what? And Coach and I will get into some of the stuff that, we went through and faced during those times of playing there.
Sure.
But you take so much of it, Coach. I can't thank you from the bottom of my heart. Before we get into all of our fun stuff, I can't thank you enough for the things, not just on the field, but off the field that you taught me about life and family and all the stuff that as a part of my life today.
Yeah.
I'm glad you listened.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so how fortunate you are that you guys are in our backyard. Coach Shelly, you run our backyard. I mean, Hall of Fame legacy. Coach Wamsgone, with Coach my older brother Victor, was an absolute phenomenal high school coach. Severino is absolute, and Rusty Newman, Coach Newman, incredible. We have them in our backyard. And I think what doesn't go, there's a lot of state championships or our junior college championships or college work, but what you guys do to develop these young men into men and making them better individuals. And I know at the end of the day, that's more important than any championship or any ring or anything that you can accomplish is setting these guys up for success. And they have so much success, and you're an extension of their fatherhood because you guys are around them more than their dads or moms. That's so right. It's a testament to who you are, Coach. So
well, I appreciate those kind words, and you're exactly right. It's much more than the wins. It's much more than the losses and the championships. It's about a holistic approach in development, the 17, 18, 19-year-old young man for life after baseball. I'm on the roster, the Kansas City Royals scouting roster. I'm in my 41st year.
Good.
I remind JJ, and as I remind Dayton, it's pretty hard to fire free help. But, growing up in the Royals organization and the scouting business along with coaching, you realize the numbers, the guys that actually are going to go on to make a living, to support the lifestyle they're going to choose for their wife and their children is basically two chances, slim and none.
Right.
So I knew the odds of any of our players making a living at doing it. So it was important for me to set the foundation, to teach those life skills that those kids would hopefully at some point in time understand the value of it. And that's what I'm so proud of. This guy right here sitting to my right and over 300 kids across the country that are walking every facet of life. I'm just so proud of the young men they've become, the husbands, but most importantly, the wonderful fathers they've become today.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, Coach. We appreciate that very much. And like I said, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. And even though I know you're in retirement, I know you still got a lot of stuff going on. We're going to get to your all the accolades and stuff that you've accomplished in your career and stuff, Coach, we'll get to. I want to talk a little bit about the College World Series because I know you were there. You spent the week down there. We'll get into some of that. We're going to invite another young man, Ruger Rojas from the University of Texas baseball squad. We're going to invite him on. So at that time, the three of us will put on some headsets and we'll have some conversation with Ruger when we bring him in. But let's talk a little bit about the College World Series. Before we got on air, Coach, we talked a little bit about just how much the game has changed since the time you were coaching, a ton since I was playing in junior college. But what are the biggest things that you see right now at the College World Series at the Division I level, JUCO level? What are some of the biggest changes that you feel you see the most? Because there's one I have in mind, but what do you feel like you see the most?
Well, let's start off with junior college. What a prime time to be coaching junior college baseball. First of all, the 2 years aren't going to count against them now. You still have the draft where you can get drafted out of your freshman year, your sophomore year. Unlike signing right to a 4-year school out of high school, you're not going to sign until after your junior year.
Right.
So it's a hotbed right now for community colleges in baseball. The big difference that I see in recruiting right now, and we'll take the JC level versus back in the day when I was recruiting, was my butt sat in bleachers all spring watching high school games, all summer watching American Legion games, and then of course travel ball came on later on in my career. But it was the physical, being there, seeing the kid get out of the car or off the bus, walk into the field. Whereas today, you've got recruiting coordinators, you've got assistant coaches sitting in their office on the computer looking at the 10, 12, 13,000, whatever we have in the portal at the time. Wow. And we're recruiting strictly from the computer statistics, and we're not getting that hands-on recruitment that I think we as coaches are missing today.
Right.
The other big thing I see at the Division I, and I definitely have some ideas why we see it, but we're in a society so much of me, myself, and I. Back in the day, Jude, when I was recruiting you, I looked for kids that had a love and a passion for the game. I'm not saying they don't have that today, but that passion and love is chasing playing time. Because if we don't have playing time, we're not signing the NIL deals.
Right.
And I've always said from day one that money is the root of all evils, and to this day I believe it.
I think you're right, Coach. Yeah.
And when we have 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, and now we're going to start seeing 25, 26, and maybe 27-year-old kids in college athletics, and these guys and gals are making 5, 6, 7, 8 million a year in endorsements. It's a whole different game. So we can throw out amateur, because we're not amateur anymore when we're making that kind of money in college athletics. The term student athlete is not relevant anymore. We've got players that enroll in classes, but let's be honest.
Yeah. Why would they go? Right.
We don't go to class. Sure. So that's kind of a falsehood term, student athlete anymore. But I look for that loyalty. And these kids today no more know what loyalty is than the man on the moon. They're loyal to myself in chasing that NIL money. Yeah. And for me, being a Division I player, playing at the University of Kansas, being old school, and I don't think I'll ever really change from that. It hurts, and it hurts deep down to see how the game has changed there. With that being said, the game of baseball is still, in my opinion, the greatest game in the United States of America. It is America's game, and I just I'm proud of what we're doing as an organization, the ABCA, the NJCAA, and I think we'll get more into that later.
Right,
Coach. When you were heading towards retirement, you knew, hey, this is going to be I got another season, another 2 seasons. Did that help make your decision a little bit easier, knowing where it all is going with NIL and what, I heard some really, really interesting stories, and you look at the legends like yourself, Saban done, Krzyzewski done, and Nick Saban said he knew it was time when his wife said they would host these families, and you would get to know these families and make dinner and break bread with them and just get to know who they were.
Absolutely.
Into sitting down to what can you give me, and there was no personability, and being old school like yourself, he was like, it's time. I can't relate, I can't do this, and it takes that mentorship, that fathership out of it, which the great ones like yourself are so good at. And it's just like, so you just need a bank teller, or you need someone to transfer funds over, because it's not me, it's not my wife, it's not the hospitality and what we're opening up this family environment to help develop you as a person, individual, but it's just about dollar signs, and I'm faceless, you're faceless, the university's faceless. And so did that kind of help your decision a little bit easier?
It's certainly something I thought about. And I was retiring right when the NIL and the portal was really starting to gain speed. I'll take it back even 5 to 8, 10 years before that with travel ball. I started bringing people, and one of my favorite jobs of coaching was recruitment. I loved bringing kids on campus, their mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, brothers, sisters. That was my favorite part of coaching, was recruiting. It got to a point where we would bring our local kids in, and one of the first questions they would ask is, how many uniforms do you have?
Oh, wow. Yes. I would say
How many hats do you have? Coach, how many aluminum bats will you buy for me? Coach, how do you travel?
Wow.
Well, we started out driving in vans.
Right.
Then we were fortunate the last half of my career, we were able to charter.
Right.
So when you told them, well, we take vans or we charter, what do you mean, you don't fly? Well, you can't get the jet off of KCI and land at Narc City in time to get elevation to fly the thing. So no, we don't fly.
Right.
But when I take a look at those questions that were being asked, and I really dug down deep and I saw their background, they were coming from travel teams that were flying the kids to California, Florida when they were 10, 11, and 12 years old. They were buying them 2 bats for the summer. They had 4, 5, 6 uniforms and hats. So by the time they went through travel ball, high school, and they walked in my door, the hands were out it's not what can I do for you. When you came into my office, you said, Coach, what can I do for you and your program? Now it's, Coach, what can you do for me?
Right.
That was 10 years before I retired in 2020. And then it just started landsliding when the NIL and the portal started.
You know, back in our day when we were, talking about going to play junior college or whatever, the biggest thing we would look at, you looked at facilities. Like everybody knew JUCO had one of the better fields. When you would go to some of these other places, and I remember when I first came out, because when I went over to Cali County, I spent a semester there with Coach Burrows, and I'm telling you, we went to Cali, and you talk about, I mean, at that time, I know now they put money in the program.
Sure.
They've won a bunch there. Coach Burrows has done a great job. Hats off to him. But when we were there, Kerry Kraft and I rolled into Cali County, and that field was next to a meat packing plant. And it was terrible. But back in our day, that's what we were looking at was, hey, is there a nice facility? What's the facility?
Yeah.
And Johnson County had great facilities.
Yeah.
Everybody would be like, yeah, well, that's the rich place in Overland Park. But not like you're talking, Coach, where people are coming in.
And now, Coach, when like I have 2 little girls and they're in ballet, they don't play sports, but we'll go to Dick's and you'll see like batting shells for kids that are 7 years old that are $90. And you see all these big time Acuna Juniors and who are great for baseball, but they have all this swag and chains and hats and glasses and none of it really protects them. It's all swagger and it's all like they got different color socks and high shoes and and I love all that personally, visually, aesthetically how it looks. But I also know I'm like, these poor parents, because they grow out of their Bryce Harper cleats the following season for $110 and they need batting gloves. And you see these little ones in the routine, they step out of the box and they adjust their gloves. It's like, get in the damn box and swing the bat and swing with your Easton Black Magic 34, that you had back in the day.
I gotta love it.
Yeah, no, but now they have, you see them, and my little cousin played, so I'd go see him. These kids would show up with 3 or 4 bats. And it's like, you're not that good to have 3 or 4 bats.
No, they can't use one of them. That's less than 3 or 4 that's in those bags.
So that's got to contribute as well with them seeing all this and all of the, and like the, different color scheme uniforms and, the bigger, Division I schools like Oregon and all of the Nike money.
Absolutely.
They have 80 different combinations and kids do love that. They do love that. I reflect back because I played high school football. In my uniform I wore, I think my brother Vic, who was 10 years older than me, wore the same pants, the same jerseys, white helmets, and you go out there and play. And then in the last 5 or 6 years as Shawnee Michigan's developed, I went to a few games. They won a couple of state championships. I'm like, Jesus, they have all this stuff now. I was like, we had the same
four different helmets for 10 games.
Yes. And I think finally, I think your senior year you got white face masks, but then it looked like gray Rydell, the air pack helmets and gray face mask. And, now it's like I said, but that's so interesting from your perspective when they say, hey, how many hats, but they do love all of that stuff. And, the burgundy pants, white jerseys, all that.
I got a chance to, this summer, go to quite a few Little League games, anywhere from 4 years old up to 13 years old. And even the 4, 5, 6-year-olds are wearing what they call bro beads. And I didn't know what a bro bead was, but they're bro beads. They're the necklace that you can go online and you buy them, and they've got color beads that match their uniforms. And then you've got 7-year-olds coming up with the sliding mitt in their back pocket.
The sliding mitt.
Sliding mitts. Now, these kids don't run fast enough to get a scab if they fall down. But when we see it at the major league level, and then we see it at the Division I, it's a trickle-down effect. And you hit it on the head. These kids are wearing $300-400 worth of accessories. And I told my wife and daughter up in Omaha, on ABCA, we have several different committees that I'm familiar with, and I sit on them. One of them is rules and speed up. We're trying to figure out how to speed up the game. Right. Well, one of the things that drives me nuts is whether it's Major League Baseball, Division I, or junior college, we've got the armor from the top of the head to the toe. Now we get on first base. It's 30 seconds to take everything off. Yes. It's a bat boy that's not in elite shape that runs out there to get it, and then we have to watch him come back. I say, if I'm commissioner, if you're going to wear that crap, you wear it all the way around until you score, you get put out. Let's move this game along.
Yeah, I like that. Because like Coach said, it takes a minute or a minute and a half to take all that stuff off.
It's crazy.
And some of those guys, like I keep referring back to Acuna Jr., after he hits something hard or he exit velos 120, he takes it off slower than slow. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off of it.
It's like he wants everybody to watch him take it off. And it's like, we're not here to watch you take that stuff off. Yes. Coach, let's go to, so this is something I wanted to touch on here in the World Series. And is it just, can't be just me, because you know this game inside and out. Is it just me, or are these kids throwing harder and harder every day?
No. I was going to point that out earlier. The 4 starting pitchers, the first 4 starting pitchers up in home this year, 3 of the 4 sat 95 to 97, touched 98, 1 touched 99. The other kid was slow, 89 to 92. Now, there was a time I'd give you my right arm for that in JC. And then I saw 2 kids for different clubs out of the bullpen, 100 to 102 on the gun. The power arms are alive and well today.
I mean, that is unbelievable.
It's crazy.
With that being said, though, Coach, isn't that contributing to all of the injuries that we're seeing? And I mean, it's these kids, once again, that they're starting to blow 96 in high school, 97. There's only so much your arm can take. And with what they have today in technology, you can come back and throw harder, but you look like a guy like Cole Raggins, who's, he's had his arm rebuilt and is having difficulty now. And it's like, you hear scouts and say they don't know if he'll ever be in that form again that he was in, but it's just throwing that hard and that whip and that torque. And there's so much emphasis now on, on spin rate and what that is, that, it's almost like it's scary, because these kids are just, they're bigger, they're gassing up, but it's their longevity, and if they don't have command and it's just straight fastballs, their careers aren't as long, whether it's injury or just mentally not being able to.
And that's one of the things we're looking at in the American Baseball Coaches Association. We formed a committee called Youth and Travel Baseball. We got an outstanding young man that heads that up, that's doing annual summits around the country. And the Kansas City Royals have really jumped in, and they're hosting about every 3 meetings here in Kansas City. And last year I got to attend that, and I just sat in a corner and I listened to this group of summer travel and youth baseball. And one of the major things we're trying to identify is the overusage of the arm. We could debate all night pitch counts. There's going to be half that's for it, half against. One of the things that I'm thoroughly impressed with at the Division I level, I just wish there were more money to trickle down to Division II and junior college. But when you go down to Corb's place down at Vanderbilt at Nashville, you go up to Dan O'Connell up at Louisville. These guys have $1 million pitching labs. They've got cameras. They've got every angle. I mean, these guys have the expertise in their pitching coaches and assistants to teach the right thing. So I think at that level, our kids are under great care.
Sure.
They're getting the great instruction. Where we've got to do a better job is at 8, 9, and 10. In my opinion, 9 and 10-year-olds should no more throw a curveball or a slider. And I used to laugh when a kid came into my office and he'd list, well, what do you throw? What's in your pitch repertoire? He'd name off 6 pitches, but my favorite one was a slurve. I go, what the hell is a slurve? That's a bad curveball and a bad slider put together, and it's a slurve. Yeah. Now I think we're calling it the sweeper.
Yeah, the sweeper.
The sweeper.
Yeah.
Coach, now, I've been hearing that this year a lot in the Major League Baseball, and I'm going, what the heck is a sweeper?
Yes. Right.
But, you know, I guess we stay around this game long enough, we're going to come up with other names. But that's one of the things we're trying to do is educate the youth coaches, the travel coaches, trying to get some criteria down, educate parents, because let's be honest, it's the moms and the dads that's volunteering at 8, 9, and 10, that fundamental age when your arms, the tendons, and the muscles are growing. And the growth plates, that we have to be extremely careful. And I always said, if I had a son, I would not let him throw anything other than a fastball and a changeup until he was 16 years of age. Then we would look at properly teaching him the spinners, the sliders. But you can win all the way through junior college throwing a fastball if you learn to change speeds, and an outstanding changeup. And I'll take you down memory lane. I think you'll remember a left-hander we had by the name of Roy Ramsdale.
Yes, sir.
Ramsdale was a pitcher from Shawnee West, a left-hander that couldn't break a pane of glass. We're sitting down at the 5A at the time, state championship in El Dorado, Kansas. And a bunch of scouts and coaches were sitting around, and Roy was throwing his senior year in the state championship. Now he wins it his junior year, wins the state championship. He's pitching and I hear rumors going around, well, who's recruiting him? And then I'd hear, well, Coach Shelly's got him locked up. He's going to Johnson County. A couple of scouts asked me, said, you got on this kid? And I said, no, I'm not recruiting him. They said, why not? And I said, velocity. His velo's not good enough. And they said, what are you thinking?
Right. Sure.
Where was he last year at this time? Winning a state. Where's he at now? He's winning the state. He throws a fastball with movement. He throws the best changeup I have ever seen catching at the University of Kansas, coaching 34 years. Ramsdale had the best changeup I've ever seen in my life. He came to Johnson County throwing low 80s and with that changeup and just dealt for 2 years.
I love to hear that.
So Rory and I grew up same year.
Yep.
So Rory, Chris Woods, Tim Church was in that group. Greg Lattice was in our group.
Absolutely.
I just talked to Lattice the other day. I still talk to Rory every now and then. Because going back to that time when Roy was throwing, we were throwing. There wasn't pitch counts, Coach.
No.
There wasn't pitch counts.
No.
When I was throwing in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I remember what I was doing and all the stuff that was coming out. And it was always me against Ramsdale, me against Chris Woods, me against Buckley. Buckley was there too, Buckley, Lattish. And we were throwing. But Coach, by the time I got to my sophomore year at East, and Coach Newman was up there, by the time I got over there, my arm was dead. And when we talked and went to the doctors, my dad took me to the doctors, they were asking me, how many games were you starting when you were younger? And I'm like, I would start 16 to 20 games by July, and then I would go play with some teams and go down to Wichita and stuff. And they were like, they were throwing you like a grown man. Yep. You never should have been throwing those. I mean, Coach, if you remember, by the time I got to you, listen, I'm being dead serious. I'm being dead honest. I shouldn't have been playing junior college. I mean, because I did not throw hard enough. Sure. I had to kind of teach myself how to move the ball. I had a circle changeup that I could throw, and that's how I got people out. Yeah. But I mean, my arm was dead.
But Jude, that you hit it on the head. you had to adjust. You had to learn to pitch.
Yes.
You no longer could throw.
Right.
And that's a whole difference whether you're pitching in Royal Stadium
Right.
or you're trying to get 7-year-olds
Right.
out. The sole object of pitching is getting out hitters. It's not about velo.
Right.
You can throw 110 down the middle
Yeah,
of the
right.
plate if it doesn't have movement.
Right.
They're big leaguers are going. They're going to time it.
Right.
They're going to hit you.
course.
But you had to learn to pitch.
Yeah.
And the thing I remember about you, along with Ram, is that you guys knew 2 pitches ahead where you wanted to be.
Right.
That's what pitching's all about,
Right.
is knowing what you wanted to do to
Right.
get to a certain count or a certain location on a pitcher.
Right.
That's when it was fun as a coach to sit there and watch my guys pitch
Right.
and not throw.
Right. Coach, do you remember you used to call a lot of the games for pitchers and
Yes.
stuff? As I started working with Vrooman in my sophomore season, as I started working with them, and Coach could see that Vrooman and I, the way we worked together,
We let you go.
yeah, Coach finally got comfortable enough to say, you know what, you and John can call the game. You and Vrooman can call the game. And I'll tell you one game that I remember in particular, and we were playing, was when we were in the regional, Coach, and that was freshman year. It would have been my freshman year, their sophomore year, is when we were playing in the regionals against a team from Oklahoma, Coach Simmons' team,
Seminole.
Seminole. So we're facing
They were
Seminole.
a powerhouse.
Oh my
Big
gosh.
time back
They
then.
were like 88-5 when they came to play us. Well, because they were sending teams 2 different ways when they were coming. And I forget what happened. We were in the middle of this game. We were down. I had to come and just try to eat up some innings and the couple 2-3 innings in the middle to try to hold it close till we get towards the end of the game. And I'll never forget going in there. I mean, Jamie, I got on the mound and I'm warming up, and these guys are in the dugout. They're laughing. And for three or four innings, I'm throwing changeups. I'm throwing this. They're hitting the ball 5, and Vrooman's coming off the field just laughing. And Coach Shelly's just keep lefty, just keep throwing, just keep throwing that sidearm, just keep throwing that sidearm and throwing that change.
Yeah.
Oh my
Make
God.
sure it's moving.
Yeah.
Make sure it's moving.
Because if it sits there, they're going to hit on the college boulevard.
sure.
But they were so frustrated because those guys were superstars. Now throwing 100 miles an hour, that's what they want. Those guys will dig in 90, 95. They love that. But seeing someone like me just throw where the ball's moving, I'm throwing a change up. It was, but it was a lot of fun. But Coach, my arm was dead. It was dead, but it was ruined from Little League, from no pitch count,
Overusage,
and,
yeah.
overusage, and somebody not telling you, hey son, you should be throwing maybe 50 pitches and then not throwing for another 3 or 4 days. I mean, I was throwing complete games. I'd throw 7 innings on a Monday, come back Thursday. They're like, hey, how do you feel? I feel good. I'd go up on Thursday and start another game.
Sure.
And it just so Coach, what is going on now in Little League to control that? Like you said. Is it down in the Little League level where they're
Pitch
keeping
count,
a good enough pitch count for those pitchers?
Absolutely. What we've got to do is we've got to change the mentality of the instructors, the coaches, the dads, and get them away from winning 4-foot-tall trophies. We got to get away from this mentality of these kids are bringing home rings bigger than their hands. We got to get away from that.
Sure.
We got to get back to teaching the fundamentals. I was at a Little League game back when I was thinking about retirement. Just stopped down the right field line. They just won. I heard the coaches. If I hadn't been there and seen it, I wouldn't have believed it. They brought the trophy out and it came mid-thigh. And one of them said, hey, man, that's a good-looking trophy. And they said, we'll never come back here and play again this particular weekend tournament. Well, why is that? Well, last weekend we were up in Liberty and we won one and it came up to the waist.
goodness.
This one only comes to mid-thigh. And when you got coaches worrying about the height of the trophy versus taking care of young men, developing the game, sportsmanship, fundamentals, those types of things, we got to get the priorities. So back to your question, it's all about education.
Right.
So that's what we're looking at doing is building a curriculum that will help these little leaguers, travel ball, select teams, give them something, criteria that they can work with.
Absolutely.
God, that's just so big, Coach. So at the World Series, who was your team? You kind of you kind of noticed when you got there.
I had Arkansas going all the way. I just really felt by far they had the best talent on the team. LSU was close second, but I really thought it was Van Horn's turn to do it. But when I got up there and I saw LSU, I knew especially that first game matchup. It was going to be tough if Arkansas lost it.
Right.
But a lot of good teams, a lot of unknown teams.
Yeah.
First time in, I think, the College World Series history that we didn't have one team that was there the year before come back and repeat.
That's
I saw
amazing.
that. Coach, we're going to take a break right now, and then we're going to come back because we have a lot more. We're going to bring on Ruger Rojas, and then we're going to get into all your
I'm excited.
accolades.
I'm excited.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Guys, we'd like to thank our resident sponsor, Proactive Solutions. They've been with us from day one. They allow us, Love You Bro podcast, to get to do what we do each and every week, and that's bring you a new episode with new guests. So a big shout out to Dean and Natalie Thede at Proactive Solutions. Proactive Solutions has been delivering infrastructure solutions and IT design and consultation services to clients ranging from startups to Fortune 100 companies for more than 27 years. They are proud to be a Kansas City locally owned and a top woman-owned business, offering custom solutions and personalized support. So thank you to Proactive Solutions, Dean and Natalie. If you guys are interested and your company needs some IT solutions, reach out to Proactive Solutions at www.proactivesolutions.com. We have two great resident sponsors that really help us here at Love You Bro Podcast and allow us to do what we get to do week in and week out. Lula's Southern Cookhouse, Bradley and Brittany Gilmore, owners of Lula's. It's at 1617 Main Street. If you have not been down here, please come down on a Sunday and have brunch. Great wait staff, great bartenders. The ownership team with Bradley and Brittany Gilmore are just fantastic people, and they allow us to do what we get to do in this amazing event space at Lula's Southern Cookhouse. Welcome back to Love You Bro Podcast. You know, we have our special guest on studio tonight with us, Coach Kent Shelly, legendary Coach Kent Shelly. Coach Jamie, we want to welcome on a super special guest tonight. He's a family member of a very, very good friend of ours, Herbie LaFuente. This is his cousin who pitches down at the University of Texas. And I got to tell you, Ruger, I'm a huge Longhorn baseball fan, so I did watch some stuff this year. When Herbie told me you were pitching for them, we were super excited. So we're going to welcome on Ruger Rojas from the University of Texas Baseball. Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah. What to do, Ruger?
What's going on?
All right, Ruger, let's dive into a little bit. I want to hear, I know for the University of Texas this year, this was your guys' first year in the SEC. Tell me what that was like for you, for the University of Texas, facing that SEC schedule. What was that like for you this year?
Yeah, no, I'm super grateful for the past year. Being able to play in the SEC is truly unreal. It's the best league in baseball outside of pro ball. So, every weekend you're facing the best of the best, and to compete at this level has always been a dream of mine. I'm just so happy I get to, be in it. So that's all that. That's all that it's about.
So this was your junior season, correct? This was your junior season at Texas at UT.
Yes.
And then where were your first 2 years at?
Yeah, so I spent the past my freshman to sophomore year, I was at the University of Texas San Antonio.
Okay. How was that like when you came out of high school? Were you in the rotation? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, coming out of high school and past years there, I was a reliever there. I was a high leverage reliever, threw a lot of innings there, and it was fun. It was super competitive ball, and we played in two conferences, Conference USA, which is very competitive. You got DBU, Louisiana Tech, and then last year we made a jump to the American, which was East Carolina, Tulane, Wichita State, just, some of the powerhouses of mid-major baseball. But, it was fun and all. I just thought I think I could play better ball and, where else but the SEC. So I took a bet on myself and ended up close to home at UT, and I don't regret the decision at all. I think it's the best I've ever made in my life.
No, of course. What a great opportunity for you there at the University of Texas. Coach, any questions you'd like to ask Ruger?
Yeah, big time. I got a question. I know what it's like to sit in a board meeting with your head coach, Slosh. We serve on the ABCA board of directors. What I'd like to know is, what's it like to play for that big time guy?
Oh yeah, no, he's truly one of a kind, and maybe in my opinion, the best coach in college baseball. Is just, big into just the self-confidence part of it. Like, we're all good. That's why we're here. We all have the skill to play at the SEC, but it's truly believing in yourself to be the best player in the world when you take that field. That's his number one, thing that he leaves for us. It's not about, your skill confidence, it's self-confidence. And if you have that built up over time, like the game will reward you.
He's a true teacher of the game.
Oh yeah, no, he's great. I'm so happy that him and Max and Kane, all the people that in that staff are helping me develop here.
Well, when you see Slosh, you just tell him Kent Shelly said I missed him out in Omaha, but I'll look forward to seeing him in Columbus in January.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah. When you see Slosh, just tell him Kent Shelly said hi. I missed him in Omaha, but I'll see him in Columbus, Ohio in January.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was, for it being our first year in the SEC, it's kind of hard to navigate what we want. But, our standards, we have a standard here, and the University of Texas is the most winningest college program of all time, and we'd like to continue or rebuild that tradition here. So the goal was ultimately Omaha and to win the whole thing. But, everything happens for a reason. Things happened that we couldn't control, and the game showed us that anybody can be taken out. Even, the number 2 team in the country can be bounced out of their own regional. So it's all just a learning lesson for us. And like I said, even though we lost, I'm still super grateful for it, and it's a good learning lesson for all of us.
Yeah, you guys had such a great team this year, Ruger. Like I said, I enjoyed watching you guys during the season, and I'd catch as many games as I could. Fantastic roster, top to bottom. You guys were ranked number 1 for the majority of the season. When you got into the SEC play, what was your role? Did you start very many games in the SEC? Were you coming out of the bullpen? What was your role coming down the stretch?
Yeah, so the first weekend I was a reliever, and up to that I was like a high leverage reliever, just eat up innings and just stop the bleeding or throw up zeros. But the second weekend, I think it was like just a 1-2-3 for the weekend, all was season. So I got my shot on Sunday against LSU.
Don't even know that's possible.
That role for the Friday starter for the remainder of the season. And, some outings went really well, some went poorly, but I just did what I could to give my team the best chances of winning.
Right. How many innings did you get in this year, Ruger?
Oh, I got right at 69, I believe.
That's a lot of innings.
That's a lot of quality innings.
Yes. Jamie, anything you got for Ruger, man?
Yeah. So, Ruger, how awesome is it right now to be an athlete in Austin when you guys, it's the greatest college sports. Through the, we just had on Ashley last week, right fielders, won the championship. But what you guys do, college football, college basketball, what you guys are, you guys are just a winning program. And I imagine it gets competitive to hold yourself to that standard, like you mentioned earlier, about what it is to be a University of Texas athlete. So what's that about, and how fun is that right now around campus and just the buzz? And, I imagine you're living your best life as also balling out.
Yeah, no, I think, you can be a Georgia Bulldog or an LSU Tiger, a UCLA Bruin, schools with winning tradition, but to be at the University of Texas is something a lot of people can't do. And to be an athlete here is just, you're a one-of-a-kind person. You have championship mentality, you have championship mindset. Just everything about you is just focused on winning national championships here, which our school has done an amazing job at through its entirety. We have 6 national championships on the baseball team. We have the most trips to Omaha, most wins of any program. So the standard here is very high. And everybody wants to beat Texas, regardless of it, like A&M or any school in the country. Sure. They would just love to have a chance to, beat the Texas Longhorns. And it's the coolest feeling ever that it's us versus the world. Yeah. Like nobody likes us. We're the Yankees of college sports, if you could say that.
Absolutely. And I love
we
that.
Just win all the time. So there's a target on our back, but it's good recommitment fuel to, accomplish what we want to do.
Absolutely. And that as you're going there, you want to be part of that. You want to be, but you guys always look, obviously always look the swaggiest, always have Texas athletes carry themselves different than most. I would say from a backseat looking in, it's just different, and it is in every sport. They're just a little bit different in how they conduct themselves, how they carry themselves. It's almost like an academy to prep yourself for professional sports and what that looks like and what that is. So it's awesome to see.
So Ruger,
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
sorry, Ruger, I didn't mean to cut you off there. So is that just the mentality when you walk on campus? You just know that every coach, no matter what sport you're in, national championship is 2 words that you guys use no matter what program you're in.
Yeah. That's our standard here. Coach Schloss implemented that day one that, Texas is, we like to call ourselves the University of Texas in Omaha, just for, all the trips we've made out there.
I love
How much we know. That's in our school's blood, is to win and to be the best, and, put everybody in the dirt, as you could say.
Right. So what's on the horizon for you this summer, Ruger? What do you do? Are you throwing in any type of league at all this summer, or are you just working out there at UT? What do you got going on for the summer?
Yeah, so I'm living in Austin currently. I'm actually filming this in the dugout right now as we talk, because the Wi-Fi at my place sucks. But I'm working out every day. We just started throwing today, getting back into throwing. So that's something that we've been looking forward to, just get the bodies back into shape and build up for another good season.
How many pieces did you guys lose from the squad this year? So what type of
We've
pieces did you lose? And then also, what does your recruiting look like coming into this year again?
Yeah, no, we lost quite a bit of pieces, to guys with no more ineligibility, or they wanted to leave, or the draft. But I think we did a really, really good job in the portal this year. That's usually where we look highly. Got a bunch of Power 5 transfers and guys from mid majors coming up. In the high school class too, looks really promising. And then same goes for the position players as well. It's looking like it's going to be a solid recruiting class this year, and I'm excited to have them on campus and see what it's all about.
That's
Ruger,
awesome.
what do you anticipate your role being this next year with Texas?
Yeah, I don't look forward to too much. I don't look too forward into the future like that. I'd love to start. But if the team needs me to come out of relief, I just want to put this team in the best spot to win, and whatever role they put me in is what I believe best, for my success and also the team's success.
Skip, I bet you like to hear that mentality, right?
I tell you what, that's what a head coach wants to hear right there.
Ruger, how many pitchers do you guys have on your staff, or how many will you have on your staff this year? How many will be in that pitching room?
Y'all are cutting out. I'm sorry.
I was just asking how many pitchers will you guys have like in your pitching room this year? Like, what do you guys go starter wise? Is there 5 guys that are considered starters? How many guys do you have in that pitching room? Is there 12 on the roster? How many pitchers do you guys have on your roster?
Yeah, I don't know the specific number, but guy that threw quite a bit might not throw it all this year, and it just depends on how their bodies treat them and how they treat themselves, and if they go about their business with the right intent, and I think the game will reward them. I could say right now, honestly, I just don't know, just because of all the new guys that we're bringing in. But the guys that have proven themselves and have history here, it does make them feel a little bit better about their chances, but it's just so uncertain right now.
So when does fall ball start for you guys? When will you guys start getting in that? And then what does that schedule look like for you guys during fall ball? How many games do you guys play this fall?
We don't like to play a whole lot of games. We like to keep the fall pretty light to medium intensity. We don't want to wear out the bodies before the season, so we're not going to throw a whole lot of innings. We'll keep it to, I don't know, some guys might need to throw more, say like freshmen that are coming in, or transfers that might not have thrown a whole lot last year, but they just want to see, work on some stuff, or give them a little bit more repetition. But the fall it's an amazing time for us. It's truly just to work on our bodies and get bigger and stronger, but also get to know your teammates as well. We get back to school late August. I think we'll start fall practices early October, and then we'll roll on till the end of November. Some of the pitchers will stay up till Christmas. I know I'll be here till Christmas, just working out, throwing. So it's fall's great for us to, work on a routine and, be like a pro is what Max likes to call it. So I'd say to build up our, just to build up a routine and treat every day like a pro.
That's awesome. Anything else you guys have for Ruger? Coach Jamie?
No, I'm good.
We are going to be there. Love You Bro podcast. We plan on being up there next spring. And we'd love to pull up. We'll pull up, watch you guys, take in a game or two, a series or two, and have some fun. We're up there, and I'll be flossed out in burnt orange. Hook 'em horns.
Oh yeah, hook 'em horns. No, it's great. Can't wait to have you all out here.
Hey, Ruger, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. Like I said, we really appreciate you having on. And listen, we're gonna ask you to come back in the fall. We'll ask you to come back in the spring. I know in the spring when that season rolls around, your time will be kind of limited. But you're part of Love You Bro podcast now, so we're gonna ask you to come back on from time to time.
Oh yeah, no, this was great. I loved it. I'm happy I hopped on.
Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, Ruger, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch talking to you soon, and we'll send you some swag out there. You're going to need to tell me what size you wear, and I'll get you a Love You Bro burnt orange so we can send it out to you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Good
Ruger,
luck,
thanks so
buddy.
much for coming on.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome back to Love You Bro podcast. This is another segment of our show that we're shooting tonight because we got so much to get to with Coach Shelly. We wanted to just, again, welcome him on our show. We talked a little bit about the College World Series. We talked a little bit with Ruger Rojas from the University of Texas.
Shout out to Rugo.
Shout out to Ruger.
Absolutely.
Little shoddy on the internet connection, but he was awesome, and we'll have him on again.
We'll have Ruger back on. Seems like a really good young man. Excited for his year coming up. But we're gonna get into really, a baseball. We got so much to talk about because Coach Shelly, like I said earlier, such a legendary coach at Johnson County Community College. It takes a long time to do a lot of the stuff that he did, the wins, and like I said, a lot of stuff on and off the field. Coach, I want to jump right into the award that you just got. We were talking about before you went to the World Series, you and I talked a little bit about coming on the podcast. And I said, I really want to talk about this legendary award that you won because there was some criteria to it. Tell us a little bit about the award you won, where you were. Tell us a little bit about some of the stuff we were just talking about.
Well, we just returned from a week out in Charlotte, North Carolina. That is a corporate headquarters for the NJCAA. And their administration months ago sat down at one of their roundtables and said, hey, we want a legacy award to recognize our coaches, long tenured, and their accomplishments. So they came up with the first ever NJCAA Legacy Coaching Award. They recognized every sport in junior college baseball. About 255 coaches were recognized. In baseball, there were, I believe, 37 coaches.
Okay.
The criteria was a minimum of 1,000 wins.
Amazing.
So that just reminded us how old we were and how long, at least I fooled people. People thought I could really coach, but it was quite an honor. It was very humbling. Of the 37 baseball coaches honored in Charlotte, I personally knew 18 of them. But the coolest thing about all that, Jude, was 7 of those coaches were from Kansas.
That's awesome.
And these were all guys that broke in head coaching probably for the first time. We all broke into the Kansas Jayhawk Conference probably within a year of one another. And I'm just really proud. It says a lot about the strength of the Kansas Jayhawk Conference, because I've always said whoever comes out of Kansas and goes to Grand Junction has a legit shot of winning a national championship. That's how tough the Jayhawk Conference is, and no one knows that better than you, Jude.
Yeah, listen, Coach, we faced, I mean, there was some squads back in the day. I mean, we had, Allen County was there. Cali County, and what Coach Dave Burrows did at Cali was a few more years after. They had a good squad when we played them, but a few years later, I know they really loaded up. Coach Burrows done a great job down there. Coach Burleson, was he part of that?
Coach Burleson was part of that at KCK. You had the coaches that were recognized from Kansas was Steve Burleson from KCK,
Okay.
Dave Burrows from Cali, Mike Warren coached at Pratt my sophomore year,
Okay.
long tenured at Barton County. Then you had Steve Murray from Neosho, who's still the only active coach still.
Okay.
Galen McSpadden from Seward County.
Okay.
So it was just a great list. The Kansas coaches that made it in person, and it was great for me to see because I hadn't seen them since I
Right.
retired in 2020. But Dave Burrows came from Cali, and Steve Murray came from Neosho. So it was great to catch up with those guys and tell a few stories.
That's awesome. Coach, I am going to tell one of my favorite stories of playing for Coach Shelly, and we're going to continue with this. But, Coach, I'm not sure if you remember this or not, but I've got a good memory of my time at Johnson County. Jamie, we were playing KCK, and we were playing him at JUCO. And Burleson was he would have been a coach you would have liked. He liked his swag and liked his players and let his guys have his swag. And I remember their 3-hole hitter was up. He's a center fielder, legit, really good ball player. Can't remember his name. And I'm on the bump, and I'd got a couple guys out. Anyway, I'm throwing, and this guy's jabbing back and forth with me, and I throw a change, and he strikes out. And I was like, sit down type deal and vrooming through the ball back. Well, Coach Burleson cuts me off from the third base side. He cuts me off and gets in, and he comes right into me and he says, "Don't ever talk to any of my players." And it was, for me, my favorite moment of playing with Coach Shelly because Coach darted out of our dugout and told Burleson, "Hey, you want someone to talk to? You talk to me. Don't talk to my players."
absolutely.
Coach, you remember that?
I remember it very well. I probably had more than one or two of those types of conversations with Coach Burleson, but what a great coach he was,
Yes,
and
yes.
what a great program they ran. They ran a first-class program, and actually, before I signed on at Johnson County as Sonny Maynard's assistant, I had interviewed the day before with KCK,
Okay.
and Coach Burleson had offered me a position, and he gave me great advice. He said, "I don't know what Johnson County can offer you, but whatever it is," he said, "I would take the job at Johnson County." And, he could have dangled that carrot and brought me over there because
course.
that's how much I respected
Right.
him and his program. I would have loved to coach for him. But,
course.
as it turned out, it worked out okay at Johnson County.
Yeah, it worked out okay with the
Coach, with that being said, and how obviously loaded your conference was, with all the names you said, it reminds me of when I was growing up in college basketball, the Big 8 conference. Every
Right.
coach was a legend. Every coach, every night. Wonderful coaches, wonderful X's and O's, great father figures, great. Who did you personally like to get a beat? Where you had a beer with them in the fall, but it was like, it was your team that you wanted to get over. You wanted it meant a little bit more. And coaches can say it doesn't, but you hear them after they retire, after they, with Marty, may his soul rest in peace, Marty's Raiders week. It was Raiders, and he was Raiders. We were fortunate enough to have Tim Grunhard and Bill Moss on.
Absolutely.
And they talked about how important it was that week. I know it's a little different because you guys don't have weeks, but who was your club you like to beat?
Well, I'd like to beat them all.
Yes.
But, we always thought of our crosstown rival being KCK.
Yeah.
And for us at Johnson County, it was important because back in that day, you had to recruit pretty much locally because we didn't have a lot of the money that, the schools have today to recruit. So it was important to be able to, have that bragging piece. So when we
Sure.
went into homes and we brought people on campus, we didn't want to play second fiddle to anyone. And of course, you had Longview Community College at the time across the border in Missouri in Maple Woods. So it was important for us to kind of own the town. And in the early days, it was extremely competitive. Later on as you mentioned, the outstanding job that Dave and his brother Lefty did down at Cali, that became a rival because at that point in time, it was pretty much every single year Johnson County or Cali
Sure, right.
winning it and moving on. So that became a built-in rivalry. We always enjoyed competing against Neosho County. Steve did a great job down at Chinook, Kansas. And then I never looked at it as a rivalry, but one of the games that I always tried to schedule and I looked forward to was at Barton County when Coach Warren was coaching out there because in my eyes, having played my sophomore year at Pratt Community College before I signed with Kansas and came back home, Mike Warren I held on the highest pedestal. I wanted my programs to be like Coach Warren's.
Sure.
And so the running of the foul poles that Jude's alluded to.
I think I didn't see the history, but I think he's probably running the most foul poles in your tenure, Coach.
Trust me, I'd never asked my players to do anything that I had never done.
Sure.
And trust me, playing for Coach Warren, we ran a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought I was out for the cross country team, and us catchers didn't like to run a lot. But so that was always fun for me to play. But the KCK, Cali, and Neosho were always big games for us.
Getting up to his back.
Coach, when I was there, Allen was kind of our nemesis when I was there.
Allen was,
Right.
and for whatever reasons, the things had kind of turned when Val's got to the later end of his career.
Right.
But in the early '80s, early '90s, Val just had tremendous teams, and I think they got out a couple different times to the JUCO World Series as well. But I remember those teams when I was playing at KU. We were allowed to play a few games in the fall, and Coach Temple would always bring Val's club up, and they had a guy I'll never forget by the name of Dwayne Wells. I thought the guy ate nails for breakfast. I got tired of seeing him hit home runs against us in the fall up at KU, but Val did. He just another one of those extremely competitive clubs.
Right. Coach Val did a great job, Allen.
Coach, when I was excited when you were coming on to ask you a couple questions that I think that are important for families, important for the younger kids coming up. And that is, I think when we were younger coming up, it was kind of like if you weren't serious, you played all three sports. And then as you got a little bit, it's like you got to start playing AAU ball in the summer. So it took away the baseball from you. Or the baseball, hey, you need to be playing fall ball. So it took away the football. Or do you encourage to play all sports, or how do you see that? I know it's great. You talked about pitching and how you shouldn't throw a curveball until you're 18, until you know how to pitch. Do you think it's good for these young kids to play multiple sports, or is it like you need to kind of hone in at 14 or 15 of what you're going to do and continue on with that, or how do you feel about that, Coach?
I absolutely would encourage every mom and dad out there to let their kids play as many doggone sports as they want to play. In fact, it's funny you asked that question. About the last 6-7 years of my coaching career, Eric Horner, who's the head coach now, was my recruiting coordinator for years. And I just sat down with him and I said, hey, start looking for multi-sport players. I'm tired of looking for the specialist.
Sure.
Again, being associated with ABCA, looking at the injuries, the arm injuries, and just overall injuries, talking to doctors that I've had access to, what we're finding, or what we have found, is when you specialize in a particular sport at an early age, you only condition those muscles associated with that sport. Then when you got up into high school or junior high school, and then you started maybe playing a second or third sport, that's where we started seeing the injuries come in, because the kids had only concentrated on one sport at an early age. So I highly encourage, and when I talk to people around the country, play as many sports as you possibly can. Condition all your muscles, ligaments and tendons that are required by all the different sports. I think the specialization is hurting kids today.
Yeah, that's incredible and so insightful, Coach, because I wouldn't even think of that being the, about your muscles and being trained and I would not think of that. I would think of, other reasons, but that's incredible and it's insightful. And I love that answer, Coach.
The other thing that I want to piggyback on that answer, the other thing is burnout. When you start specializing on any sport at an early age, By the time you get to high school, junior college, or the 4-year level, oftentimes we see burnout. Now, us three grew up, and if anyone ever walked in to my office when we were growing up and say, I'm burned out, like it did the last 15 years of my career, I literally had a handful of kids come in and say, Coach, I'm quitting, I'm burned out. What do you mean you're burned out?
Right.
How do you not have the passion and the love for the game of baseball to play it until someone takes the game away from you?
Right.
But that's what we have seen when you specialize early on and you only play that one sport. By the time you get to high school and junior college, kids are burned out. So I think that variety of playing different sports, the variety of different teammates, and I think the coolest part of all of that has nothing to do with physical, but it's about learning to become a good teammate.
Sure.
This guy sitting right over here in the chair from across us, this dude was a great teammate. He might not have had the recognition that maybe a couple of our guys had when he played, but he was a great teammate.
Yeah.
And that's what I always wanted my players to say when they left was, what did you want to be remembered as?
Sure.
I wanted my guys to say, I remember him as a great teammate.
Yeah.
And that's what playing different sports with different people, different personalities does. Yeah. It teaches you how to accommodate, how you develop that camaraderie. One of the things that I tried like heck to do was raise money to build a clubhouse, a locker room that was solely baseball. Because you take a look at, I don't care what it is, the Chiefs, the Royals, Johnson County Community College, Vanderbilt, you name the sport where you have champions, it all starts in the clubhouse.
Yeah,
for sure.
It all
And
starts in the, and you hear these guys, and it's all about the love.
Yeah.
Right.
I love going to practice with these guys.
Yeah.
I love going to war with these
Yeah.
guys. I love these guys like my brothers. When you talk about our championship clubs, and especially the two teams that went to the JUCO World Series in Grand Junction, it was all about loving their brothers.
Sure.
We don't want practice to end.
Yeah.
And trust me, there were certain years where I'd glance down and go, oh, okay, we're about 2 hours. It's time to wrap it up. And then there were times where I was just like them.
Yeah.
I didn't want the day to come to an end because you just love being with those guys.
Yeah.
It's just something special.
And something I admired from my brother, I knew as he was dominant when he's young, and it kind of, the game caught up and he was arm was thrown out. But so many things that I saw from his teammates at JUCO, whether it's John Vrooman, may still rest in peace, Mark Knipp, Steve Grigsby, these guys loved to play with Jude Davilla. And it was, to me, it was the first thing that registered that there's clubhouse guys.
Absolutely.
And every successful team that has championships or succeeds has clubhouse guys that you need for your clubhouse.
Absolutely.
And that was, I think, it was the biggest value because there was not a one of them that didn't have a great story or just loved being around him or him competing or, just a great story. So it was a clubhouse guy before I kind of recognized what clubhouse guys were that you needed around to not the most talented, not the guy you're gonna turn to in the ninth or seventh or big inning guy, but a guy that loved to be around, everyone rooted for, and kind of brought the team together, which is great.
I can honestly say the 08 club and the 14, the World Series teams, and the other Region 6 championship clubs and Eastern Sub-Regional championships, I can honestly say those clubs, we had 100% understanding of what our role was. Every single player on that roster understood their role. They accepted it, whether they agreed with it or liked it or not. They accepted it, and they did just what our young man from Texas said. I want to do whatever it takes to help my club win.
Yeah. And Coach, you were so modest earlier because you were like, you need the players, but also you need to be the Coach Shelly that knows how to dial that up and you get them to buy in. That's a big thing. You can't just have anyone buy in to say, hey, this is my role, because there has to be someone to check that. Like, they have to buy into what that role is to be successful. And some of the, being a college basketball fan, some of Coach Self's best teams have been guys that have bought into their roles, and they wear Christian Braun. It's Kansas. It's Obagi, Kansas. But they buy into what that role is because Coach Self was delivering that message, and it was, it was received. And so that's a testament to you, Coach. You're like, you've seen players, but you need to do what you're doing behind the scenes,
Coach, one of my favorite things about playing for you and playing at JCC, when we talk about how close the team was, it was all the guys that we grew up playing against in the Sunflower League. When we won the Eastern Sub-Regional, we'd always battled in high school in the state playoffs and the state tournaments. But when we won that Eastern Sub-Regional, we beat Butler. We beat Allen, then we had beat Butler. When we're on the field afterwards, it was the hugs with the PJ Spells, the Roy Ramsdells, the John Vrumans, the Brian Box, the guys you grew up with since you were little kids at 3 and 2. We were so close, but we realized, like, we got to junior college, we had battled so many battles. When we got there, we really loved playing with each other. We really loved playing. Everybody had a role, but we loved playing that. That was one of my funnest things, Coach, playing for you when we won that, was winning that with all those guys from Kansas, from the Sunflower League.
Real quick, in my parents' hallway, like leading like from their like living area to the bathroom, my parents would hang up all of those all-star pictures, of like, every year it got more and more. It's like I played with him at JUCO, and they're all, which once again, so incredible that we're all in your backyard.
Yeah.
But like 7th grade teams, 8th grade teams, it was all of you guys that went to JUCO, and all played for different, obviously.
It was special. It was special.
But you could tell, and you guys,
the other thing, and unfortunately it always was the last game when your season ended. But you could tell what type of year you had recruiting. I mean, you knew it by then. But I would look around when the Blessed Woman was singing on it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You could tell if you did it right or you might have missed by the number of tears that were streaming down the face.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If a guy was 100% invested, not in just himself, but his coaching staff, but more importantly, the guys he went in the trenches with every day. If it meant enough for those tears to stream, you had recruited the right people.
Yes, absolutely. That's amazing.
In the years that maybe wasn't up to our standards, I can recall like it was yesterday. I'd look around, and there might only be 1 or 2 that had tears coming down.
And they probably had the most successful careers with you that were invested in like that. That were.
Yeah.
When we lost to Seminole, there was a lot of tears. I'll tell you that. There was a lot of tears of not wanting to leave that field because we knew we had beaten Seminole. We knew we had beaten them to go to the Junior College World Series. Coach, let's jump into some of your awards. Coach, I'm looking at this list, and I don't know if I got enough time in the day to read all these things, Coach. Listen, there's a lot of accolades here, Coach.
A lot of them.
There's a lot of.
Remember, I pay people to write good things about me, Jude.
Listen, so we got this one here. The American Baseball Coach Association, 2013. Coach Shelly was into the Hall of Fame. The Junior College Baseball Association Hall of Fame, 2007. Ban Johnson Hall of Fame, 2015. The Johnson County Community College Hall of Fame in 2013. Jamie, he was the 1994 coach of the Japan USA All-Star Series, coach of the USA All-Star Games in Cuba in 90, president of the Coaches Association, International Baseball Committee. Coach, there's just a slew of them here. What is your coach and coaching and doing what you did? I know we talked about what it means to you of all the players, and we're going to get into some of your favorite players of all time, some of the best players you played all time. What award as a coach, when you retire and look back, which one means the most to you?
Can't say all of them, Coach, because I know they all do. I can't say all.
You know, I said this towards the end of my career, and I mean this with all sincerity. All of those are extremely humbling, and I don't take one of those awards for granted. I'm very, very grateful. But there's 2 things that mean more to me than anything in the world, and that's having had the privilege of coaching well over 300 young men who went on to continue their academic and athletic careers at the next level, be that NAIA Division II, Division I, pro ball.
It's incredible.
over 300.
Awesome.
To be able to reconnect in the past 5 years I retired to some of those guys that go back to my first year of taking over at the ripe old age of 25. Had I known then what I knew at the end of my career, I would have turned and ran away scared.
Sure.
But I took over at 25 in 1987. I've reconnected with a lot of those guys. We're still stay in constant contact. But to see the community leaders and role models that these young men have become, to see the husbands that these young men have become, but more importantly, to see the fathers that these young men have become, means so much more to me than any award of honor that I've ever received. The second thing that I think stands above any of the Hall of Fames or the other awards that I think is the coolest to me is I fooled people for long enough, 34 years at Johnson County Community College. I decided it was time for me to get up. I didn't want get out. I didn't want them to think that, I had fooled them all those years. I thought they were figuring it out. So I wanted to leave on my own terms. But the coolest thing for me was having the opportunity to coach 5 sets. Now listen to this, guys. 5 sets of fathers and sons duos in my tenure.
Wow.
And one of those is someone I played with, PJ Alvarez and his son.
PJ Alvarez and
That's
Alvarez.
incredible.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, Coach. Five.
Sets, and I just missed out a year coaching the 6th set because I coached Jim Chapman,
Yes, Chappie.
second baseman,
Yes.
and then one of his sons, Max, started off at Wichita State, transferred back to us, and was going to play in 21, and I had announced my retirement in 20.
Okay.
So I just missed out on the 6th.
That is so
Father,
cool.
son.
I love that.
I just thought that was super, super cool. But, the ABCA Hall of Fame was phenomenal, the NJCAA Hall of Fame. And then, of course, being recognized by your own college. And then the Van Johnson, which I got to play 2 years in, played in an all-star game out in Royal Stadium. And I was just recently asked by Nancy Milgram to serve on the Van Johnson Board of Directors.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
Coach.
And I get to serve the ABCA Board of Directors for as long as I live. So I'll still have my finger in the pie
Yeah.
and hopefully get to affect baseball
Sure.
in a positive manner.
Sure.
Coach, that's awesome. You've done so much for the game, Coach. And like I said, I can't thank you enough for my time at Johnson County Community College. Let's take a few minutes to kind of dive into some of the best players you've coached at Johnson County Community College.
Well, I knew I might get thrown under the bus tonight.
Coach,
Just don't ask me for my favorite players because I will get run over by a bus.
Yeah.
When we talked about this several days ago, I started just jogging my memory, and I came up with a full page of not 1 or 2 at every position, but probably 8 to 10 to 12 to 15 at every position. But for time's sake tonight, let me try to narrow it down to maybe 5 or 6.
Okay.
And I'll try to rank them in order.
Okay,
And
okay.
again, for all my players out there that's not making this list, Coach
You're on the list, 'cause I saw it, Coach.
apologizes. Yeah, you're on the list. We're just going to run out of time tonight.
Coach, I thought that was so cool, and you were like, "Look at this." I'm like, first of all, that's so cool. You took the time and you enjoyed it. But I was like,
it was a super activity for me.
"Yes,
Coach, just put that piece of paper up and show that this is what Coach came up with as he started going. I said,
that's the cool." You need to. I think it's frameable, Coach. Like I think that's like in your office.
I might do that.
I think
There's
that's so
a good
cool, 'cause
100,
it's raw.
150 names on this.
And it's just raw.
But anyways, let's go the top 5.
Okay. Okay.
Number 1, in my opinion, has to be Kit Pello.
Okay.
Not the most decorated player I've ever had, but the one player and my only player that made it to the bigs.
Right.
Was drafted out of Johnson County Community College like 61st round. He calls me, he's super excited. He said, "Coach, I've been drafted by the Royals." I said, "What round?" I knew they had called me from the office, and they said, we're going to take him 61st round. He goes, what should I do? I said, pack your bags and go to Arkansas. I said, we're not even giving you a one-way bus ticket.
Right.
So he does. He goes down to Arkansas, has 2 outstanding years. We redraft him middle 40 round. He spent 7-8 years in our minor league system, 3 or 4 in AAA, and then he gets the call up to the bigs. I was out of town the first night. He gets called up. I'm back in town the second night. One of the highlights of my career is seeing one of your kids with his name on the back during BP.
That's awesome.
Super. Number 2, the most decorated player in our time. A young man came to me as a walk-on. Shortstop Doug Otto. Received every single honor you possibly can. All conference, all region, all American, ABCA Rawlings, Gold Glove player, and the list goes on and on. But a shortstop, Doug Otto.
Coach, listen, we're going to get more into this. We're going to take a quick break real quick because we're going to come back. We have a list of top players and Coach's best players that play for him, and I don't want to cut this off short, so we're going to wrap this up for just a second. All right, Coach, so we're going to continue with your top player list you had. We started with Kit Pello.
Kit Pello, number 1.
And then we went to Doug
Otto,
Okay,
number
so
2.
We're gonna go on down the list.
We're gonna
Coach.
keep right on
We're gonna
rolling.
Keep on going down the list.
Number 3, maybe the all-time greatest overall hitter I ever coached, Scott Hennessy. Scott was from Olathe North. The thing that impressed me was every practice, every game, he polished his shoes, brushed his hat. This dude was a professional.
Yes,
in
sir.
high school, he was training as a professional with us. Without any question, the greatest clutch hitter I've ever seen in the game, as a player or as a coach.
Wow.
Again, 34 years coaching in the game, playing it a long time. This dude was a real deal. No stage was too big for Scott Hennessy. Wow. The bigger, the better.
Right.
He delivered time in, time out. Average arm, average plus runner, but the dude got jumps like nobody's business. He could cover a lot of territory out in center field.
He could go get it, and I can actually say that I had the privilege of playing with Scott. Best hitter I ever played with or saw.
He could do it, but hitting was definitely his forte. He gets drafted by the Royals, gets drafted out of our place, and spent several years in the minor league system, and then, like it does for all of us, it eventually passed him by. As we were talking off air, Scott went on to be a successful assistant coach throughout a couple of the different community colleges in Kansas, went to Florida, was a high school coach, and now had worked his way up through the scouting in the Dodgers organization, and has been coaching one of their affiliates in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and doing great things.
Awesome.
But Scott was just an unbelievable hitter.
Absolutely. Hats off to Scott Hennessy.
So Scott's number 3. Number 4 was a two-way player, of which in junior college we had to have a lot of them. But this young man's name is Aaron Schnurbush.
Okay.
Aaron played outfield and was one of our top elite pitchers to ever come through the program. Left guy. He was on our 2014 World Series team. Out of our place, he signed. Let me see. He signed with Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, and had an outstanding 2-year career there. Following him at number 5 would be another shortstop, Brett Kenning.
Okay.
Brett Kenning out of Iowa was another one of those pure clutch hitters. Again, no stage was too big for Brett. Just excelled when the spotlight was on him. A little bit cocky, but to be really, really good, you got to have a little bit of that.
Yes, sir. A little bit of that swag, right, Coach?
A little bit of that. So that's top 5.
Okay.
Let's go one more.
Okay.
Left-handed pitcher, a guy by the name of Brandon Droege.
Okay.
Droege did an outstanding job. He, too, was on the 2014 World Series staff. went on to get drafted, spent a few years in minor league ball. But those 6 guys just had just a notch
Right.
above others. But like I showed, I got a page just full of them.
Right.
The list could go on and on. We were so blessed, Jude, through all the years in every position. We had some of the best catchers to ever come through the state, including KU, K-State,
Right.
Emporia State. We had some of the best first basemen, middle infielders, third base. We mentioned, the Alvarez brothers.
Right.
PJ played third base. I always accused him of having a below average arm, but when we regraded our field and put in the turf, we quickly realized that from third base to first base, and this is hard to believe, was 13 inches lower than first base.
Oh, wow.
13 inches.
That's big.
So when PJ found out, he said, Coach, he said, correct that. He said, I had an average, way above average arm. He said, I'm throwing uphill 13 inches, and it's true. And his son Alec would used to say, Dad, you had a below average arm, until he learned Dad was throwing 13 inches uphill.
Hey, listen, I tease PJ because I said I've seen your boys run. PJ, I don't know, their mom must be fast because I remember you running, PJ, and you did not have any wheels.
PJ was one of those kids I wouldn't be afraid to lift his billfold out of his back pocket. Him and I would have had a heck of a good race. But then you look at Anthony Miller, one of the top slugging power hitters ever to come through community college baseball, gets signed with New Mexico State, never sees them, as a high draft pick with the Cleveland Indians. And I've had quite a few players go on to be coaches at various levels. Anthony was one. He came back after finishing up pro ball, was one of my assistant coaches. Went down to Midland Community College in Texas, made several trips out to the JUCO World Series in Grand Junction, and then was one of Brian Green's last hires of his assistant coaching staff down at Wichita State. So, I just want you, and I want all of my players to know, and I tell them this when I see them or talk to them. Again, all the Hall of Fames, all the honors and awards, none of that's about Kent Shelly. It's all about the Jude Davillas, the Scott Hennessy's, the Doug Ottos, and the list goes on and on. It's you guys that made it possible for me to receive way too much recognition. I will always be indebted. I will always have great gratitude to you and your teammates for what you did for me, what you did for my program, the 1 or 2 years all of you played for me, but what you guys have done in your personal lives as you've moved forward is, I was once told, your players will be a reflection of you.
That's pretty
So
cool.
be sure you recruit the people that you want out in the community and throughout the country and the world representing you. And you've done it first class along with your teammates and all the others, 300 plus that I had the privilege of coaching. You guys have always done it the right way. I will never forget you, and I will always love you. And you guys know that. And I just owe you guys everything.
Coach, thank you so much. Like I said, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule.
It is my pleasure.
To come on our podcast. We're going to be reaching back out to you. You're part of our Love You Bro podcast family. But Coach, it's meant so much to me after times past and stuff like that, to be able to talk to you, see you on social media. It's awesome to have you on our set. So thank you so much. And like I said, everything you've done for me on and off the field, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Coach, and thank you so much for coming on our podcast tonight.
It's been an honor and it's just a great evening of talking baseball. Again, I thank you and I love you, buddy.
Hey, I love you, Coach. Okay, being part of our family, we got some swag and stuff to get you. We're gonna get you one of our Love You Bro hoodies.
I can't wait.
You get to tell me which color you want.
I can't
We have a
wait.
great gift certificate from our sponsor, Lula's Southern Cookhouse. We got a nice one for you and your wife to come down and have dinner. So
Fantastic.
you're part of the family. You're gonna sign the flag, and now you're part of the Love You Bro family now, Coach.
What an honor.
Coach,
Thank
I
you,
love
brother.
Thank you so much. I love you, Coach.
I love you, buddy.
Thanks.